Emily Dawson, a woman with Down syndrome, entered the bank with a sense of accomplishment, eager to open her first savings account, a testament to her dedication over the past months. Yet, rather than receiving the encouragement she needed, she encountered public disgrace inflicted by thoughtless staff members. Just when all hope appeared to fade, an unforeseen voice resonated through the hall, and to everyone's astonishment, it belonged to a renowned Hollywood star. The events that unfolded next rendered everyone utterly speechless. Before we proceed with this narrative, please share your location with us. If you find joy in tales like this, consider subscribing to the channel, as we have another captivating story ready for you tomorrow. The morning sun streamed through the windows of Emily Dawson's modest apartment, illuminating the uncomplicated, yet inviting space adorned with personal mementos. Pictures of loved ones decorated the walls, while vibrant sticky notes with reminders were thoughtfully placed throughout the space. That morning, Emily felt a surge of excitement like never before. After months of diligently setting aside a portion of her earnings from her job at a local cafe, she had finally amassed enough funds to open her very first savings account. This moment marked a significant achievement for her, a testament to her ability to stand on her own, despite the world's tendency to overlook her strength. She clutched her notebook, meticulously filled with every step to open the account, reviewing each detail one final time. The pages brimmed with notes and annotations, showcasing her commitment to mastering her craft and ensuring every detail was executed flawlessly. "Today is the day, Emily. You can do this," she whispered to her reflection, the words echoing in her mind like a powerful incantation of bravery. Upon her arrival at the bank, the atmosphere was tumultuous. Queues extended all the way to the entrance, with patrons voicing their frustrations over the delay, while the employees appeared overwhelmed, striving to manage the pressures of the day. Emily inhaled deeply and stepped inside, gripping her folder of documents with determination. She sensed the inquisitive looks from a few patrons and staff, yet remained steadfast in her pursuit. She stepped into the queue, and while she waited, she softly practiced her words for the teller. She carefully went over her notes in her mind, ensuring that no detail slipped her memory. As her moment arrived, she was met by Brittany Stanton, a staff member whose expression conveyed weariness and impatience. Brittany hardly glanced at Emily before inquiring in a lackluster tone, "What do you want?" I'd like to open a savings account, please," Emily said, her voice soft yet filled with anticipation. Brittany grabbed Emily's documents and started to skim through them rapidly, but soon her face betrayed a sense of tedium and restlessness. "This section contains errors that need to be corrected. We cannot proceed with it in its current state." Brittany slid the papers back across the table to Emily. "You should return with someone who possesses the necessary skills for this task." Emily blinked, a wave of confusion washing over her. She was confident that she had adhered to all the guidelines accurately. She attempted to clarify, "Yet I confirmed that all is accurate. I adhered to the guide precisely." "Listen, darling," Brittany interjected, her voice dripping with condescension. "It's futile to argue that this is incorrect. Return with a protector or an individual who can assist you." Emily sensed a slight tremor in her hands. Brittany's tone, icy and unfeeling, started to erode her self-assurance. Nevertheless, she made another attempt. "I stand as my own protector and I can demonstrate." Before she could finish, Brittany rolled her eyes and, clearly frustrated, declared loudly enough for everyone in the bank to hear, "You're wasting my time. Why not let someone else take care of this, all right?" A hush enveloped the room, every gaze fixated on Emily, who, feeling a wave of embarrassment and humiliation, bowed her head in response. Her cheeks burned, tears on the verge of spilling over. The heaviness of that instant was almost too much to bear. Still clutching her documents, Emily observed the crowd around her. Their whispers and glances filled with either sympathy or contempt. The shame was intolerable. Yet, in the midst of the mounting tension, an unforeseen event was on the verge of unfolding. Emily stood tall, grappling with the inner turmoil of the humiliation that washed over her. The whispers of the crowd enveloped her, a heavy burden resting upon her heart. Gripping her papers firmly, she sought to recall the reasons for her presence, her autonomy, her achievement. Yet, in that instant, everything seemed far away. "Please wait over there," Brittany said, gesturing towards a nearby chair. Her tone remained icy and restless. Emily made her way to the seat, acutely aware of the heaviness of the stairs surrounding her. As she settled into her chair, she meticulously sorted through her papers once more, sifting through each document to uncover any potential missteps she might have made. "I did everything right," she repeated to herself. Shortly thereafter, the bank manager, Greg Morgan, made his entrance. He approached Emily with a smile that initially appeared warm, but gradually unveiled a condescending edge. "Greetings, Ms. Dawson." "Greetings, I'm Greg, the one in charge. I have been made aware of your circumstances. How about we have a brief conversation?" He gestured for her to join him at a table tucked away in a more serene corner. With a steadying inhale, Emily stepped forward in his wake. As she sat opposite Greg, she started to reiterate the reasons for her presence, making an effort to conceal the quiver in her voice. He listened with a facade of patience, yet as she continued, his smile transformed into a more patronizing expression. "Text, I understand, he interjected, cutting off the flow of words. "However, I must inquire, are you truly prepared to handle a bank account independently? This can be quite intricate." The question struck Emily with the force of a punch. She took a deep breath but responded with conviction. "Indeed, I am well versed in managing my finances. I put in a lot of effort to reach this point." Greg reclined in his chair, intertwining his fingers atop the table. "I'm not questioning your abilities, but our procedures necessitate specific formalities. Your documents lack a signature from a legal guardian, for instance. That might pose a problem." Emily knitted her brow, a look of confusion crossing her face. "I stand as my own protector. I am able to sign." Greg emitted a brief, awkward chuckle, attempting to ease the tension in the air. "Indeed, that's correct, but we must ensure that all aspects are suitable. Perhaps you could return another time with someone who can confirm this for you." Emily experienced a surge of anger building inside her. She sensed the injustice of her treatment, yet before she could articulate her thoughts, whispers from surrounding patrons reached her ears. Some stood by her in quiet support, while others voiced their prejudiced remarks. A man in line muttered, "She likely has no idea why she's here. Why do they allow individuals like that to manage complex matters?" Another response came in. Emily attempted to dismiss the remarks, yet their voices reverberated in her thoughts, piercing her deeply. Yet she continued on. "My documents are accurate. I absorbed all the information prior to my arrival. I would like to open my account today." Greg let out a heavy sigh, clearly frustrated. "Hold on a moment, I need to look into something." He rose and made his way to Brittany at the counter. From her vantage point, Emily caught snippets of their dialogue. Greg's voice was soft, yet his demeanor spoke volumes. He shook his head, expressing sentiments such as, "We can't afford to spend time on this. It's clear that she is not equipped to manage this situation by herself." Emily sensed the tears beginning to gather in her eyes, yet she steadfastly held them back. She was determined to conceal any sign of vulnerability, despite the chaos enveloping her. In an instant, a click pierced the silence. As she turned, her gaze fell upon a nearby customer capturing her image with their phone. "It's truly heartbreaking," the individual remarked to another. Emily bowed her head, filled with shame. She remained unaware that her circumstances were turning into a spectacle for onlookers. She experienced a profound sense of isolation, vulnerability, and confinement. As Emily attempted to regain her composure, the sight of her sitting there, clearly unsettled, started to spread across social media. The significance of that moment was poised to unfold in a way that no one at the bank could have foreseen. In the midst of the bustling bank, a man sat quietly in a secluded corner, striving to blend into the background. The individual in question was Keanu Reeves. Veiled in his usual manner during those infrequent appearances, Keanu had arrived at the bank for private affairs, yet his gaze was entirely captivated by Emily. He had observed the situation develop from the very start. Brittany's frigid demeanor, Greg's patronizing attitude, and the embarrassment Emily faced. Each word and gesture had been meticulously noted, and Keanu now appeared to be contemplating his choices, determining the right moment and manner to proceed. Meanwhile, Emily sat quietly, shuffling her papers for what felt like the 100th time. She endeavored to maintain her composure, despite the evidence of her distress reflected in her red, tear-filled eyes. Keanu observed her with a grave, nearly melancholic demeanor, evidently disturbed by what he had seen. Individuals like her often face underestimation, don't they? An elderly man nearby remarked, observing Keanu's intense gaze fixed on Emily. It's truly heartbreaking to witness this unfold. Keanu offered a subtle nod, remaining silent. His eyes were locked onto Emily and the bank personnel. He understood that his intervention needed to occur at precisely the right moment. In the distance, Greg and Brittany continued their conversation. Keanu caught fragments of their dialogue. Unproductive, a drain on time, and ultimately not worth the effort. Every word intensified the frustration swelling within him. He straightened his cap and inhaled deeply, clearly making an effort to maintain his composure. Emily, however, gathered her resolve and approached Greg once more, gripping her papers firmly. She made another attempt to present her argument. I have completed all the tasks assigned to me. I kindly request to open my account, please. Without raising his gaze from the papers scattered across his desk, Greg responded in a chilling tone. I have already provided an explanation. Without a legal guardian, our hands are tied. Please return on a different day. Yet I stand as my own protector, Emily urged, her voice quivering. Greg lifted his hand to interrupt her. Miss Dawson, I've already mentioned this to you. Please return on a different day accompanied by a legal guardian. Must I clarify it for you? Emily paused for a heartbeat, then turned and made her way toward the bank's exit. With every step, the weight seemed to increase, pressing down more than before. The whispers of the crowd persisted, with some glancing at her with sympathy, while others displayed their contempt. Keanu rose abruptly, his voice slicing through the whispers with a serene command. This has reached its limit. He started to approach the counter, each step purposeful, infused with a clear sense of resolve. As he neared the desk where Brittany was poised to send Emily away once more, he halted her action with a soft yet authoritative tone. Could you clarify the reasoning behind your treatment of this customer? Brittany spun around, taken aback by the sudden interruption. Her annoyed look swiftly transformed into bewilderment. She failed to recognize Keanu at first due to his disguise. Sir, this is not your concern, Brittany replied, striving to uphold her professional composure. Keanu took off his sunglasses, unveiling who he truly was. The response was instantaneous. Brittany's eyes grew wide, and a handful of customers nearby started to murmur as they identified the Hollywood star. Yet, Keanu's steady, resolute stance remained unshaken. He brushed aside the rising murmurs, his attention solely on Brittany. When an incident like this occurs in public, it becomes a matter of collective concern, he stated with a calm demeanor. Once more, I must inquire, why are you handling this customer in such a manner? Emily, who had been quiet until this moment, glanced at Keanu, her eyes filled with astonishment. She was astonished to see him there, defending her. For a fleeting instant, she sensed that she had someone genuinely in her corner. Brittany, striving to regain her poise, replied with a hint of defensiveness. We are simply adhering to the established protocols of the bank, sir. Keanu folded his arms, his eyes fixed intently on hers. He leaned in slightly and asked, protocols? Or is it just prejudice masked as bureaucracy? The bank descended into complete stillness. The unfolding scene captured everyone's attention. Brittany parted her lips to reply, yet the words eluded her grasp. Greg, sensing the stir, rushed to the counter. He attempted to ease the tension, yet the anxiety in his posture was unmistakable. "Is there an issue present?" he inquired, pretending not to know. Keanu fixed his intense stare on Greg. "Indeed, there is," he asserted confidently, gesturing toward Emily. "A customer arrived with the intention of opening a savings account. She gathered all the essential paperwork. And yet, you're acting as if she has no place here." Greg, striving to keep the reins of the situation firmly in hand, responded. "Kindly take a moment to comprehend. We are simply striving to make sure that everything is executed properly." Keanu interrupted him. "No, what I perceive is that you're introducing unwarranted challenges. What is the reason?" With all eyes on him at the bank, Keanu picks up Emily's documents and starts to examine them with great care. After a brief pause, he faces Greg and Brittany again, stating with conviction, "These documents are correct. Allow me to pose this question to you once more. What is preventing you from assisting this customer?" The bank was completely still. All attention was focused on Keanu Reeves, resolutely positioned before Greg and Brittany. Emily, taken aback by the sudden interruption, gazed at him with a blend of appreciation and astonishment. She could hardly believe that someone so renowned would be present, advocating for her in the face of such unfairness. Greg cleared his throat, striving to assert his authority over the unfolding circumstances. "Sir, I appreciate your concern, but we have established protocols in place to guarantee the security and efficiency of our services," he replied with a measured composure. "This is not a matter of discrimination. We are merely adhering to the guidelines." Keanu grasped Emily's documents firmly in his hands. He glanced over them swiftly, raising one of the pages and indicating the form. "Are there any protocols?" he inquired with a cutting tone. "Please specify what issues are present in these documents. From my observation, they appear to be completed accurately. All that is needed is present." Brittany, her anxiety palpable, attempted to reply. "At times, the paperwork may be completed, yet it is essential to ensure that the individual comprehends what they are agreeing to." Keanu turned to her with a deliberate slowness, his face reflecting a blend of disbelief and indignation. "Are you implying that this customer, who diligently followed every step and provided everything that was asked of her, lacks understanding of her actions?" "That's not what I intended to convey." Brittany hesitated, her words slipping away. "Our aim is to guarantee that everything is flawless." "Errors?" Keanu emitted a brief, mirthless chuckle. "The sole error in this situation lies in the way you have treated this woman. You have publicly shamed her, overlooked her dignity, and now you seek to rationalize the irrational. That is simply not acceptable." The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Whispers filled the bank as onlookers reacted. Some rallied behind Keanu, while others remained quiet, taking in the unfolding drama. Greg, aware that things were getting out of hand, sought to steer the attention elsewhere. "Mr. Reeves, our intention is not to cause any issues. I appreciate your concern, but this is not a straightforward issue. Should we find a way to address this with greater subtlety? I am confident." "Negative." Keanu's voice sliced through the room, sharp and commanding. "This situation cannot be handled quietly, especially when you bring this customer into the open for all to witness. The discrimination she encountered was evident to all. Thus the resolution will also be made known to the public." Emily gazed at Keanu, a sense of bravery starting to swell within her. For the first time, she rose from her chair, her voice quivering yet brimming with resolve as she declared, "I just want to be treated the same as anyone else. I am worthy of respect. I put in a lot of effort to accumulate this money. I adhered to every guideline. What else is it that you seek from me?" Once more, the room was enveloped in silence. Emily's voice resonated with an unexpected power. Keanu turned to her, offering a subtle nod of support, his smile conveying a reassuring message. "You can do it." Greg made yet another effort to reclaim authority. "Miss Dawson, I urge you to comprehend. We aim to be just and equitable. Simply that, indeed, there are circumstances that call for extra scrutiny." "Further supervision?" Keanu retorted, or merely bias cloaked in administrative processes? At this point, it appears that the organization is more inclined to alienate its clientele than to cater to their needs. Brittany looked over at Greg, anticipating his guidance. Greg let out a heavy sigh, visibly uneasy with the escalating tension. All right, perhaps we could take another look at the documents and... Not perhaps, Keanu interjected with conviction. Please proceed to review the documents, ensuring that this customer receives the respect she rightfully deserves. Greg inhaled deeply, fighting to keep his calm. It was clear that he felt trapped. He motioned towards Brittany, who, with a hint of hesitation, accepted the papers once more and started to examine them. In that moment, a young woman in line took a step forward and raised her voice. This is truly unlike anything I've ever encountered. She came fully prepared, and yet you're complicating things further? Is this truly the way you treat individuals in this place? Someone else in line concurred. They engage in this repeatedly, consistently making situations more difficult for those who require assistance the most. The circumstances were rapidly shifting unfavorably for the bank. The whispers intensified, and Greg realized he had to act swiftly before the situation spiraled out of control. After a few minutes of poring over the documents, Brittany finally confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. The documents are perfectly fine. They are indeed correct. Greg, now entirely devoid of alternatives, cast a serious glance at Brittany, fully aware that he could no longer maintain the facade. Turning back to Emily, he mustered a smile and remarked, "It appears everything is in order, Miss Dawson. Your account will be open now." Just as Greg was about to wrap things up, Keanu interjected, raising his hand and halting him in the middle of his thought. "This is not the conclusion. I'm curious about the reasons behind the challenges you introduced from the beginning. This was more than a mere error. It was a motif. Such patterns must evolve." At this moment, the atmosphere in the bank was thick with anticipation. Greg and Brittany appeared uneasy as Keanu remained steadfast. His intense gaze locked onto them. Emily, positioned next to him, continued to hold her papers tightly. Her expression blended relief with a fresh sense of determination. The whispers of the patrons surrounding them built an escalating tension that neither Greg nor Brittany could overlook. Keanu advanced, clutching Emily's documents with the gravity of a key witness revealing undeniable proof in a trial. Thus, if the documents are accurate, he commenced, his voice echoing throughout the space. "What was the reason behind your extensive efforts to prevent this customer from opening an account? I seek a straightforward clarification. I refuse to accept protocols as a solution." Greg cleared his throat, fighting to keep his tone formal. Yet, the discomfort in his manner was unmistakable. "Mr. Reeves, there is no bias present in this situation." He stated that these are merely principles we adhere to in order to guarantee the bank functions effectively. Keanu raised an eyebrow, his voice laced with biting irony. "Are there any specific instructions?" He glanced over at Brittany. "Could you clarify how these guidelines support the patron's experience of condescension, interruptions, and public embarrassment? This appears to be more about institutional bias than it does about efficiency." Brittany parted her lips to reply, yet paused in uncertainty. Finally, feeling the intensity of Keanu's gaze, the quiet strength of Emily, and the whispers of the crowd, she exclaimed, "It's not my fault. This is simply the approach we are instructed to take in circumstances like this. Individuals with unique requirements or understanding challenges often require additional time. Should we extend the time frame?" Keanu echoed, his voice elevating just a touch. "So, you'd prefer to distance yourself from them rather than offer the same level of service as you would to anyone else?" Brittany turned her eyes away, while Greg moved in to attempt to take charge once more. "This is not an official policy, Mr. Reeves. It's merely habits that evolve gradually to..." "For what purpose?" Keanu interrupted him, his frustration evident. "To simplify your tasks? Is it worth sacrificing respect and dignity just to save a few minutes? This practice might not be documented, yet it holds a tangible presence, as if etched into the very walls of this bank. With Keanu by her side, Emily found the courage to speak up to Greg, her voice stronger than ever. "So, I see I'm not the only one you've handled like this, right?" The ensuing silence was palpable. Whispers cascaded among the gathering. A man in the line raised his hand and remarked, "They do this with seniors as well. My mom had to return 3 times because she couldn't grasp the forms." A woman beside him gave a nod. "My cousin, who is on the autism spectrum, experienced a similar situation. They act as if it's an error, but it's clear they simply wish to avoid engaging with you." Keanu glanced over at Greg, his gaze intense and fiery. "Do you hear this? This is not a singular occurrence. It's a recurring theme, an ingrained issue, and you play a part in its continuation." Greg, now clearly trapped, let out a deep sigh and rubbed his forehead with his hand. "I recognize that there might be certain practices within our team that could dissuade customers who need additional time. While it may not be formalized, it certainly occurs. We are navigating quotas and deadlines, which can occasionally result in poor decisions." Emily gazed at him, her expression one of utter disbelief. "Is that all there is? Do you see individuals like me as an inconvenience simply to save a bit of time?" Greg was about to speak, but Keanu interjected before he had the chance. "This issue extends beyond just this bank. This serves as a contemplation of a culture that prioritizes productivity above compassion. However, today marks the end of that." Greg let out a long breath and ultimately confessed, "All right, indeed, there are implicit practices that emerge, and at times they result in disheartening customers who require additional time. It's unjust, and it must be transformed." Emily's voice, resolute and unwavering, pierced the whispers around her. "My sole desire was to access my account. This shouldn't have been so difficult. I should be treated just like everyone else here." The whispers of consensus intensified, and Greg clearly found it challenging to articulate a reply. Brittany, visibly rattled, whispered softly, "I never intended for things to unfold in this manner. I was merely adhering to instructions." Keanu gestured in her direction, his voice steady yet composed. "Instructions you recognized as incorrect. Each of us possesses the power to decide. Today you chose the incorrect option." Keanu advanced, his gaze fixed intently on Greg and Brittany. "This is far from finished. I will ensure this narrative gets into the hands of those who can drive meaningful transformation. Patterns like this, they linger and persist. It's time for them to be dismantled, beginning immediately." The stillness in the bank was pierced by hesitant clapping from a handful of customers, which quickly swelled in volume. Keanu's words resonated deeply, captivating not just Greg and Brittany, but everyone in the room. Emily, who had experienced a profound sense of isolation and fragility just moments earlier, now sensed the powerful presence of a united force beside her. Greg, striving to keep his cool, lifted his hands in an effort to soothe the atmosphere. Okay. We need to settle this immediately," he stated, directing his gaze towards Brittany. "Kindly ensure that Ms. Dawson's account is finalized without delay." Brittany, feeling a bit overwhelmed, grabbed Emily's documents and started inputting them into the system. In that moment, Emily gazed up at Keanu, her shy smile and sparkling eyes brimming with appreciation. "Thank you for being there for me," she said gently yet earnestly. Keanu returned the smile and said, "It wasn't solely for you. It was intended for all those who have found themselves or will find themselves in your situation. Respect is something you rightfully deserve, Emily. Always believe in that." While Brittany focused on her task, Greg sought to steer the story back in his direction. "We sincerely apologize for the events that transpired today on behalf of the bank. This does not align with the principles we uphold at our institution. I assure you that we will evaluate our methods thoroughly." Keanu fixed his gaze on Greg for a brief moment, seemingly weighing the truth of his statements, before replying, "Words are a good beginning, but it's actions that truly count. This goes beyond merely altering processes. It's about transforming perspectives. Those you overlook possess the same potential as anyone else. Ultimately, they are the ones who create the most significant impact." Emily absorbed those words, and a surge of confidence enveloped her. In that moment, she experienced a profound sense of recognition and honor. Brittany has successfully wrapped up the process and presented Emily with a receipt. "Your account is open," Brittany remarked, her voice tinged with a quieter, almost regretful quality. "I apologize for any misunderstanding." Emily grasped the receipt with great care, cradling it as if it were a prized possession. She smiled, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, yet her expression exuded resilience. "I accomplished it." Even though she spoke to herself, her voice resonated with everyone nearby. Greg faced Keanu, continuing his efforts to ease the tension in the air. "I trust we can overcome this hurdle. We aim to gain insights from our missteps." Keanu shook his head, his demeanor grave. "Acquiring knowledge holds significance, yet it cannot undo the events of today. Keep in mind that each individual who enters has their own narrative, challenges, and purpose for their presence. Respect ought to be the fundamental expectation." He glanced over at Emily. "And Emily, remember this well. You possess great strength and courage. Never allow anyone to diminish your true worth." Emily beamed, a sense of empowerment radiating from her like never before. "Thanks a lot. I shall not forget." In that instant, a customer who had captured a photo of Emily earlier approached. "I wish to express my sincerest apologies. At the moment I snapped that photo, I believed I was merely freezing a moment of sorrow. But now I realize that you are a source of inspiration. Your bravery today surpassed what many will achieve in a lifetime." Emily expressed her gratitude, feeling uncertain about how to reply. Keanu, however, gazed at the man and remarked, "If you truly hold that belief, please share what insights you gained today. Observing alone won't suffice. Each of us has a part to fulfill." Emily clutched the receipt for her freshly opened account, a sense of empowerment coursing through her. Keanu faced the audience, delivering a succinct yet impactful message that resonated with all present. Respect should never be a battle to attain. It ought to serve as the cornerstone of every relationship. Text, regardless of our backgrounds or origins, every individual deserves to be treated with respect and dignity. As Keanu exited the bank, he glanced back one final time, offering Emily a warm smile and a gentle wave. With newfound confidence, Emily smiled back, aware that this day would alter the course of her life forever. If this tale resonated with you, there are plenty more that will surely touch your soul. Tap the screen to delve into a collection of inspiring tales filled with hope, kindness, and strength.